questions on that? Okay. So the other thing that I want to mention is that when you're making pay decisions, it's much more than averages that we need to be focused on. So these are real numbers from a survey called Connexa and Foot Partners, where you can see that in 1 year's time, some jobs went down, some jobs went up. So 3% simply tells you that's our average. But we need to actually do the work to find out who is it that is moving up and who is it that's moving down, and what do we need to do about that. Most organizations, most companies don't bother reducing people's pay if the market rates go down, and usually it pops back up in another year or two anyway. But it's important to know what's going on so that you don't overpay when you're going in a situation where you're hiring someone. And for example, one of the big things we've seen lately, maintenance mechanics. Have any of you been trying to hire a maintenance mechanic lately? Having an easy time, having a tough time? No? Yes? Tough. Because what we're hearing especially is information security specialists in the IT world, maintenance mechanics, really tough to find. We've seen a huge trend over the last 5 years with any accounting or finance related position, really tough to hire for. A lot of software positions, especially in the greater Puget Sound area, are really tough to hire for. So anyway, so we need to pay attention to what's going on with those specific jobs, because they may move differently than that 3%. So you can be on average at 3%, but you can be on fire and sitting on an ice cube at the same time, right? And yes?
We did have someone who was interested in compensation for e-commerce developers and e-commerce supply chain folks too. So I don't know if you have any specific.
Well, e-commerce is, as you guys all know, I mean, the big kahunas in town are killing everybody on that. So Amazon, Yahoo, they're hiring up so many people. There just aren't enough in town. So we're going to continue to see a lot of pressure on those jobs specifically. And they have been going up more quickly than others. But it's more right now, the pay hasn't yet caught up. So pay actually the pay index tends to lag what's happening with actual recruitment. So I would expect that next year those positions will all be on the master list of really incredibly, rates that have really gone up in the last year. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Are you going to talk about premiums? Like Boeing is a company that we would be affected by it. They're putting premiums in place for signing bonuses, which are just unprecedented. No one's ever seen before.
So signing bonuses as opposed to hourly premium pay, right? Both. Okay. Okay. So this is a really tough one. The more signing bonus, we're seeing a lot more signing bonuses for engineers, specifically software engineers. We're seeing a lot more of that. People are becoming very aggressive. What we're seeing is that the lower level unskilled jobs, there's a lot of openings, there's a lot of unemployment there, but for higher skilled positions, technical positions especially, it's really tough to find them. And that's going to continue. I think Seattle's at the forefront of that nationally. We're going to continue to see that. So I think that there's going to be more and more signing bonuses. Premium pays per se, that tends to be more of a union perception or a union environment situation. But if SPIA is getting the, I don't know if it's SPIA or if it's one of the other unions that's getting the premiums, and you're competing with that, you have to pay attention to it. So it's part of your costs. And you can do it either on a premium basis or not. One of the things you need to think about in your organization is what's different about your business? Why would someone want to work for you instead of Boeing, right? And there are usually trade-offs, and that's what you need to leverage, because you may not be able to compete strictly on price, strictly on the actual salary or premiums and benefits, but you may be able to offer other things like flexibility, like Michelle was talking about, flex time, flex hours, things like that, that they may not be able to get in these other organizations. So the deal elements, the whole deal has to be looked at. Pay is important, but one of the things we know from research is that employees are willing to give up to 10%. They're willing to take a 10% pay cut if they get something in return for it. They work for a great boss, they have more flexibility, the commute's not as tough, they don't have to walk a mile from their car all the way to the front of the building, you know. So, but once you get past that 10% spread, that's when people are like, this is a different kind of house we're talking about. This is whether my kids go to college or not. That 10% spread starts being a big deal. So if you can keep it under 10%, usually the softer elements, you can make up for it. Okay? Great questions, thank you. So these are some hot jobs, and as I mentioned before, any kind of technical job are really hot and have been for a while. So the e-commerce jobs show up here. Systems, network techs,
Yeah.
any kind of nurses, certified med techs, anybody that has any kind of medical, technical, respiratory techs, nuke med techs, accounting has continued to be hot. This is really interesting to me. Executive assistant to the CEO has been really hot, and the pay has been going up there more quickly, not as quickly as some of the other examples I showed you, but it's been going up more quickly than others. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it's interesting. It's happened for the last 3 years in a row. So there's something happening there that I haven't quite figured out. Maybe it's just harder to find people who have those kind of talents, because many times in the past, or 10, 20 years ago, those executive assistants were people who nowadays are probably moving more into middle management, right? Where they have those interpersonal skills and the ability to kind of, work politics and things like that. Anyway, they're getting tough to find. And around here, software engineers, you just can't find them. It's just really tough. So anybody, what other hot skills are you guys seeing out there? Which ones are you having trouble hiring for?
Anyone in manufacturing.
Anybody in manufacturing, even the,
Mid-range, yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
interesting.
But Boeing's hiring them, the US Navy's hiring them.
Ah,
Boeing's going to lose 30% of their team in the next 5 years. And they're studying everyone right now.
because of aging out of the
Yeah.
workforce?
Age
Mhm.
workforce.
Yeah,
Navy's losing 30 people a week right now.
wow, interesting.
They can't replace them.
Yeah. What else? What other jobs? What other jobs are you guys having difficulty hiring for?
We always are looking for really good salespeople, so.
Sales is interesting. That was actually on another list that I just made up last night. I didn't put it in here, but sales has been one that's been really hot. And I think, again, a lot of our companies are really focused on top line right now. We're trying to get it back. We're trying to drive revenue. And that's why sales has never in my lifetime been like one of the top highest. Not that it's not important, but it hasn't been as big a deal as it is right now. Others? You guys you're not having any trouble hiring. That's awesome.
Ours is e-commerce, but we haven't had problems finding accounting managers.
You haven't?
I think that there was a group of people who were staying at accounting firms for a period of time, and they're all ready to leave right now, so it seems like we have
Oh,
a big
nice.
boom of those, at least in the Seattle area.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It shifted quite a bit too when WAMU came. When the WAMU implosion occurred, there were a lot of folks for a little while there, but it looked like it had flattened out a little bit again. So that's great to know. Thank you for sharing